What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Adam of Terminal Bliss. Thank you so much for your time today. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I got to tell you, the album that just came out in past January, Brut Arata, if I said that correctly, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like a champ, man.
awesome.
It rolls.
So this was a brutal, brutal, brutal listen. Like excellent work on just absolutely delivering something relentless. I just want to know like what the thought process was with the making of this album. Was there kind of like a preconceived idea involved? How did this album sort of like see the light of day?
Yeah, there was actually no preconceived other than the baseline of just knew we wanted to be just like a hardcore punk band and just really have our roots um, just based on that and but that's like so broad in and of itself, so that encompassed everything from like Dead Kennedys and Black Flag to just like weird Japanese like hardcore and just like even some youth crew stuff from I take a lot of notes from Youth of the Day and stuff like that and Face Value and bands from Cleveland, and everyone just kind of came in with different approaches and different ideas, and the only thing that we had was just the baseline of it's going to be hardcore punk, and we just went from there, and it just kind of unfolded as the practices went on, and that was basically like how we kind of rooted ourselves in the sound that came about. Is that everybody was open to their interpretation of what that bass line of hardcore punk was for them, and just brought that to the table. So
Yeah,
that's
and
kind of how that went about.
because like it seems like every raw essence of like music. I call this album really like as raw as it gets. Like and I'm
Hmm.
talking from like the youth of today, as you mentioned. I definitely thought of that, but I even
Sure.
I even thought of like some like grindcore, like Napalm Death, or like maybe even
Uh,
Misery Index or Pig Destroyer or something like that. So is it fair to, like, do all the members have like different inspirations and which is applied into Terminal Bliss in a way?
yeah, absolutely. And everybody has like all those influences that you just mentioned, and everyone has such varied tastes. That the collaboration is just seamless. It's like someone can bring a riff in, and it's something to them, and it sounds like something to them, but to the rest of us, I could be like, oh, that sounds like Brotherhood, or like like a New York hardcore, like '80s kind of band, but a lot of times like that wasn't what their intention was at all. But that's just like the seamlessness of like our influences, and how we bring that together is like what makes it so raw, because we just go with the song pretty quick, and we've only had a couple practices at this point. I don't even know if we practiced more than 10 times at this point, but everyone's just like so grounded in their influences and in the wide range of those. And Mike really comes from like a noise rock perspective, and also like a very like Born Against, uh, kind of his guitar playing is just very like it's just so much different than how I would play, and my playing with Ryan is a very like different feel. But our influences, as broad as they are, like they're still falling in that spectrum where we can just gel them together, like easy. And we don't spend a lot of time on like we kind of just come up with a song, and sit with it for a few practices and maybe make like a couple of adjustments, some fine tuning, and like we're just off like doing the next. So a lot of that rawness, comes from like the different influences, and the heaviness that everyone brings in that regard, but also just the quickness of it all. And we can settle on something pretty quick and feel excited about it. We're also like real excited to move on to the next one too. So
Hmm. Do you feel that like being that the members have come from PG 99 and Mammoth Grinder and Suppression? Do you feel like that maybe that a lot of the previous projects or a lot of having different with members playing in different bands that helped also influence Terminal Bliss, or was maybe the goal of Terminal Bliss for all of you to kind of like step into uncharted territory that you never really did before?
Speaking for me, it was definitely kind of uncharted territory. I think Mike and I have like really learned how to play together super well, and like I think that that does help just from like coming from different bands and just having done this for so long. Um, it's easy for us to step in together and just like kind of flesh out our roles in the band, and just like everyone just kind of takes on a part, and we just work super well together, and it just we've known each other for so long that it just feels, it's like it's not a chore like like going to practice and writing songs and working with each other. It's just been like hanging out and having fun, and we like to like sit around and chat it up as much as we're in the actual space like playing music. But so there's just it's not like not a lot of pressure behind it, and it's more just I think that's also coming from our backgrounds, just being in bands for so long. Like we're coming into this, especially during this time where we can't play live shows, can't do much of anything. So we've been able to just like kind of slowly just like work into to discovering like what this really is, and like what this is like working with each other. So that's been nice, not having like the pressure of immediately like just having to go out and produce anything. But
Yeah. Do you feel like, because I also mentioned the hardcore punk influences, with the way I describe Terminal Bliss is, if I had to like categorize you in a genre, I just call it straight up DIY music. I mean, it has such a
oh,
DIY rawness feel to it. And signing with Relapse Records, with they've always supported the DIY, and then having Ear
sure,
Split work with you, who an Ear Split always delivers some of the best underground goods that's out there. It seems like that
sure.
that is kind of like true to your roots in a way, right? It's like there's
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are very grounded in that DIY. I mean, that's where we all came up from. It was how we all got started playing music, and we're very indebted to that community, and that is our community. Um, so working with Relapse, like that was just really, it just was such a icing on the cake, because they're so supportive. And some of my earliest favorite bands were like Disrupt, and like that was the shit I listened to in high school. And like that's a huge influence on me, and like for all these years later to have that come full circle, like beyond that label, it's just like and we just sent them the demo. We're just like, hey, check this out, and they were like, it's cool. So it was not a lot to it, other than they just dug it. And we're really grateful to have worked with them on this. But yeah, like coming from where we come from, it was just a no brainer, you know. And that is like Ryan's doing Suppression still. They they're still playing shows, like sleeping on people's floors and stuff. It's like we're all like still like very like embedded in that DIY scene. So
Mhm.
it's great. It's great to the collaboration was just like it was perfect. It was perfect for us.
Yeah. And do you being that this is the time for hardcore punk now, with more than ever, like I don't
Yeah.
like I've always thought that, like, with how America's going to be, is that it's going to make punk rock like the most important genre again, with the way that the world is, with the making of this album. And given with the pandemic and the unrest and all this division and everything like that, did that maybe influence the sound of this, or the lyricism, or just the overall making of this album?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. Most of us like lost work uh, to crippling degrees, and just have it's been super hard for so many people. And yeah, I would say 100%. Like the general atmosphere like really shaped Chris's lyrics. And I'm not I certainly I would never talk for Chris. I'm sure he'll elaborate on that when he gets a chance. But yeah, for all of us, just being able to get together and do the band like in the first place was just such a relief to just be able to hang out with somebody with and just have like camaraderie and like be with your friends because for the most part like I've been isolated like pretty much the whole year since last March. um I don't get out too terribly much so like just on a personal level it's just like to have that just meant a lot because what is going on is just so fucking atrocious and like never ending. That it's hard to it's been hard to put that aside and be able to compartmentalize and make other things the focus. So the band's been great in that regard. Like everyone's been able to focus on that, and it's just been such a positive experience. It's been a great thing to focus on. Um, but yeah, like I think for all of us personally, like there's not a day that goes by where we're not like just fucking infuriated with some shit that's going on. That's like I think that's a given. I think that's how most people feel, and like we definitely are in the same boat and can relate. And it's been hard. It's been hard out here, but you know, um,
Well, I've always wanted to ask people who are dabbled into the world of punk rock and hardcore because obviously
uh,
what I've always thought was great about punk rock and hardcore was that it's very like it's a timestamp. Like it represents what people are pissed
sure,
off about at that time, and it really captures a moment. I'm not denying that at all.
yeah,
And but there is also saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not in a punk band. I can never do what the punk rock scene and the hardcore scene has been able to do. But like, by having to rely on all this negative energy as subject matter and all this pain and turmoil, has there ever been a time where like it feels deteriorating in the songwriting process to have to kind of like look for that inspiration in a way? Like, do you almost feel like the doom scrolling or the looking for this inspiration in a way is almost kind of like in a way it has to make the songwriting process somewhat deteriorating at times, right?
uh, yes and no. I mean, I'll speak purely of like personal experience on this. I spend so much time just being like so pissed off about like state of affairs type stuff that when I do get to practice, like that's actually like my time to like relax and just and other people like yeah like they need to bring that chaos like to their performance and to their practices. Um, from what I've seen of ours, it's more. I think everyone's just like more just happy to be there. To be honest, so like playing live with each other has been an awesome release, but at the same time, it definitely has like this air of like hope to it and like air of like like positivity to it that um, I think it's just like kind of organically just generated that way, and so we've just kind of kept that going. But I wonder like the live show. I would think like if we ever get to play live, like I would imagine that would be quite a different scenario, where I'm sure it would be just way ragier and just like way more angry in the moment, and
Yeah.
that's I kind of think that's like a side of the sound in the band that we're all really fucking excited to get to do and get to play,
Yeah.
but
You're definitely one of the first bands I want to see when this whole thing is over. Like because then
thanks.
then
Yeah,
because then I could just let out all the pissed off energy like
yeah,
in one pit in a way. Like after you play the first song, I'll be like, okay, I feel better now. Like
yeah.
so. Uh,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what we want to do. We want to like we want to have that release with everybody. We want to have that moment with everyone. We're so excited to do it. We can't wait.
is there ever a time where maybe like, and I know like you're not the lyricist, but like, do you feel that's also maybe personal experiences or personal trials and tribulations, or maybe even personal just life stories in general, positive or negative, could also maybe influence the music as well? Or do you feel that maybe like Terminal Bliss and the music is almost kind of like another side of yourself that you express outside of, daily life?
I think for everybody, it's a bit of both. I think everyone's kind of has always come to their bands with just very personal undertones and just it wasn't ambiguous by any means. Whereas this band, I feel like there's a bit. I feel like Chris is crafting, more of like a story with his lyrics, and the music is definitely taking on like more of a role in that regard too. Or we're definitely trying to give it more of a flowing like a sonic like storyboard kind of, and I say this because I think we're like kind of crafting like this something. We're trying to do something like larger than ourselves, like utilizing the visuals and music and the songwriting, and I think that's all gonna like encompass our personal stories. And Chris, his lyrics are always deeply personal, for sure. But as far as like one or the other, I think this band has definitely been a good dose of both, and just because it's especially the music, like it's there's parts where I'm just like, oh, this sounds like some crazy fucking like science fiction, just like nonsense, and so it's kind of like fun to like play that up and like kind of have like an outer kind of story that goes along with the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So definitely a melding of both for sure.
Yeah. And another question I wanted to ask you is this because as somebody who listens to progressive music where the songs are like 17 and a half minutes long, it's also unique to listen to songs that are sometimes
I
less
like
than.
Cynic.
Cynic is amazing. I mean, they're the kings of
Yeah.
that, and
Sure.
and rest in peace to all those
Yeah.
guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolute terrible loss for the world of metal. But
Mhm.
with having a song like the Omnious Hum being less than a minute, and then you have a song like 8 billion people reported missing less than a minute, but then have a song like Hidden Hand and Artificial Harassment, experimental, is like, do you feel, and that's almost 2 minutes. At what point do you like reach a level of satisfaction to say that a composition is finished?
Uh,
it's always the most
when
difficult
everyone
question.
stops arguing about it, usually.
Yeah.
No, it's usually like, I think naturally Mike's written the bulk of the songs, and he's just been writing super short material. So we've been like really good about just like sticking to like somebody just kind of like presents an idea. It's short and sweet, and then we just like as we learn it, people will just throw out suggestions. Kind of just fine tune it just like as we're going, just like real quick. And it usually in that process we're really good about keeping things like we're really good about not adding a bunch of extra. So we just try to keep it to the however short it was written is usually miraculously like how it comes out. Because along the line people come up with everyone's doing like great fucking ideas and killer shit, but we're gonna like wrangle ourselves back and just like keep it short. But we're in the process of writing the new LP, and that's like most of the songs are getting shorter. They're getting shorter by the practice.
You got to beat Napalm Death. I think they have the world record for the world's shortest song. I think I could be wrong on that. It's been a while since I read that.
My only two rules for the band when I said like no melody of any kind, no blast. But we've got some furious fast tracks on this next LP. I'm super excited about.
It saves me a fortune on time when I review it. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and thank you again for bringing us music that's much needed in these times. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote for the release of the new album and for Terminal Bliss?
Yeah, just pick up the album. Came out 2 days ago, officially through Relapse, and other than that, we just have a little Instagram account. You can keep up with our current happenings, and we do like a YouTube playlist once a month, and it just has like a wide array of stuff that we're all into. Check that out, and just treat each other well. And thank you so much for having me on here.
Yeah, it was an honor. Thank you, everybody. Terminal Bliss. Be sure to check out the brand new album, which is titled Brut Era Ata, out now on Relapse Records. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.